is the show where you find what's under the hat. It's a franchise show. Yeah, it is the show where you get the best franchise guests. Yes. It is the show where you get.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. I hope you enjoyed that beautiful little ditty there. Now, this is the show where we get under the hat of all things franchising, and it's live. Well, it's live if it's the 18th of August at 5:15 in the UK and 12:15 in bits of America. And because it's live, we love you to get involved. So pop in a comment, say hello, and get involved in our conversations, because you are the producers and the directors of this show. I often say that my preparation is extensive, and there it is. And that's because this is a conversation, not just between the wonderful people that we have on the screen today, but also between a community, between all of us. So please get involved. Now, what do we do each week on the Franchise Show? So every week we take a new topic and a lovely guest, and we have no exception today. We have a fantastic guest for you. But before I introduce him to you, let's tell you what we're going to be talking about today. So today we are going to be talking about getting your business ready to franchise. And the lovely guest we've got to talk about that is Pankaj Kumar. Great to have you with us. Thanks for taking the time, and welcome to the Franchise Show.
Hey, Howard, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. So my name is Pankaj Kumar. I born and brought up in India. I did my hotel management in way back and looking for a job. While I was in Delhi, I got a job picked up for Pizza Hut, Singapore. And I traveled from there to Brunei, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Australia, Dubai, UK, and then I came to US. And throughout my career, I was in fast casual restaurant. I enjoyed this process. And while we were looking for a job in India, I went to McDonald's and asking for franchising. And I was very young, 22, 23 years, walked into the McDonald's office and I said, I need a franchise. What they did, they thought I'm looking for a job. The guy took me in and gave me a application form. And I was like, oh, this is a job application form. I don't need I need a franchise. And then I realized that the money they were asking me for flipping a burger, I was like, wow, I can cook so much better food at home, which my kitchen cost me $10,000 to build. Why should I pay so much? So it stuck to me. And constantly while I was working, I was trying to figure out and see why we can't build a concept. It could be a great product and low investment. It doesn't have to be a $1 million investment. It can be 50, 60, 100,000. And the people who really wants to own a business, they are all people who work in a restaurant. They are working 70 hours a week. That's a long hours, and they do not have an opportunity to change their life. So that was my mission. In that process, what happened at 2019-20 when COVID hit, I was sitting at home with my wife and we were discussing that, okay, what if I'm going to lose my job? I came from England. Now, in England, what happened that you have 90 days process where performance management, and if you do not grow and build yourself in that level, then you exit. So you have plenty of opportunity. So you understand that, okay, hey, I'm going to get fired anyway. Let me find another job. Or either you work harder and improve. But when I came to America, I was working for a company in New York, and they asked me to fire a gentleman. So I went to the HR. I said, can you give me a file, a folder of Chris? And they gave me there, nothing was there. I said, why should I fire? Just fire. And I was struggling, to have a conversation and ask him, "Thank you very much for your service." And my managing director was watching me through the window, and he was like, "Okay." He walked in and said, "Mr. Kumar, you're wasting your time, wasting his time." Right? And he just handshake. I said, "Chris, today's your last day. While you're going out, pick up your check." And I was like, he never thought where he gonna pay his, the bill or
Yes.
rent or all those kind of what gonna happen to him. You just
Yeah.
say, "Oh." So that was disturbing me. So when it's
For
COVID,
sure.
15 days quarantine, and I was like, do I have a job? Or in the corporate world, when somebody doesn't pick up your call, right? Or anything in that way is happening, you have no clue what is going on in the office. And you
Mm.
are sitting in the room and thinking all those nonsense. So I was like, I need to do something, my plan B for myself, right? And I worked throughout in a restaurant industry and I didn't know anything else. So I was like telling my wife, I'm going to open a restaurant. She said, everybody's shutting down. There's no business. Don't please don't think of in that direction. So I started researching. I came to know about cloud kitchen, and I was like, okay, this is great. You have a space. You have a small kitchen, 200 square feet. You one or two employees, we can do that. So I
Yeah.
went ahead and signed up in New Jersey, signed up a lease for 1 year. The beauty was in a cloud kitchen that you can sign 1 year lease, right?
Sure.
So
You can
if
chance to have a little test, I suppose.
yeah, so you can try it out. I was like, this is great. So I did it, and then I got an office call me. My office called me, said, "Oh, we are declared as an essential services, so you can come back to work." So I went back to work. Now I have a signed up lease, sitting on my head. I have invested $35,000. I don't know what to do. So
Mm.
my wife was like, "Oh, I was telling you that you're rushing. You're thinking too much." And then I was like, "No, I have to make it happen. Anyway,
Mm.
I need to have a plan B." So what I did, I used to work 10 to 5. From 6 o'clock till 1:30 in the night, I used to run Cloud Kitchen. So it was pretty simple, on off through the app. And I start creating a concept. So I had like 10 to 12 different kind of concept. So we had like chicken wings, burger, fries, wraps,
Yeah.
biryani, you name it.
And you were, I guess, testing these concepts to see
That's
which
right.
one was
Working.
going to work.
Yeah.
Before I'm going to pause you just for a
Mm.
moment there, because I think it's a good point to pause, because I want to welcome a few people who have joined us here live already. As I say, it's always about our fantastic audience. We have the lovely Penny Hopkinson with us. Penny is put, looking forward to the show. Hello, everyone. Great to be back here again. Well, it's always good to have you with us, Penny. Normally, I will show your book, but I'm in Edinburgh and your book is in Hastings. But there it is. Have I got it the right way round? No, it isn't even here. But if you want to get your ops manuals the right way round, then you need to talk to the lovely Penny Hopkinson. We have Simon Wise with us. Great to have you with us, Simon. He's put hello, franchise friends. Great to have you with us, Simon. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts about how we get our business ready to franchise. And we are in the early stages of hearing this fantastic story. And we are looking forward to continuing that. So who else have we got? We have got Joe Caruso with us. Now, this has become a thing that I need to attempt to try and pronounce where Joe lives. So here we go. Hi, everyone, from Havre de Grace, Maryland, along the Susquehanna River at the Chesapeake Bay at Franchise Info LLC HQ. And no, Harvey, we are not changing the city's name to Harvey de Grace. So please stop asking. Well, I'm not sure if that's reasonable. I think it should possibly be changed to that. At least I could pronounce it then. Now, it's fantastic to have Joe with us. Joe always gives me a score. I refuse to Google how to pronounce this. Okay, I'm just going to keep on trying and forgetting every time Joe pronounces it, and the game will continue. But looking forward to my score. I think I got an 8.1 maybe last week, so that was good. We've got Lisa Feverick with us. Great to have you with us, Lisa. Lisa helps women who are going through the menopause with dietary advice. Great to have you with us, of course. And who else have we got? We've got a question coming up from Simon, so we're going to put that in a minute before we say hello to the lovely Steve Turner. Had a great call with Steve. He's put very informative. Hi, folks. Well, hi to you too, Steve. And looking forward to hearing your thoughts on when a business is ready to franchise. We were just in the middle of hearing the story of how Bowl'd Masala came to be. And Pankaj was just telling us that he was testing lots of different concepts. So how did you choose the final one?
So I was constantly, doing those services, and next day I used to call all the customer and I taken a feedback. And I used to see how many repeat customers are coming and what are the product you are selling, what works, what doesn't work. It gave me almost 7 months of data. And that data was really valuable, which helps me to build the menu, what gonna work with the mixed community everybody else was eating, and had an idea that, okay, which direction we can go, what kind of market or community to target, right? They build a menu, and after 7 months, what happened that people start going out, and the COVID start fading. So the moment COVID start fading, your orders start dropping, and I was like, oh gosh, this is gonna be a bubble which is gonna go. So I need to have what is my next plan now, right? Constantly, I was thinking. So one of my regular customer, he drove to kind of Uber and came to my cloud kitchen, and he was like, "PK, where is your restaurant?" I was like, "Oh, where are you right now?" He said, "I'm in your restaurant." I came out, and he was like, "Man, this is not the place you're supposed to be. Your food is so good. You need a better place." And I was like, "Look, I don't have that much of money to invest. And this is a cloud kitchen. We are doing testing, and this is the menu." So he saw, we sat and chat, and he was so kind. He used to order 3 times a week. And he said, "I'm going to connect you to someone who is doing something similar to a European style where you have a bar and few, the food hall concept." So there was the food hall concept when people were opening all over. And then he connected me to builders and the developers. So I went to meet them in Wilmington, and they gave me a space. And I was like, gosh, I has a beautiful space. It was 250 square feet, right? And it gives me an idea that, okay, I can do it in a smaller space. So I was like, okay, great. So I said, look, I don't have money to invest. So they said, okay, don't worry about the investment. Let's figure out, your food is great. I think you will do well. But I was constantly that I don't want to get a, big, massive invoice and I have to pay. So I was constantly asking him, I was like, "Scott, you have to tell me."
I think that's interesting as well, because I think on this journey, I mean, today as well, we are talking about when you're busy, getting your business ready to franchise. And one of the things you're talking about there is, well, in fact, 2 things I picked up on there. One is the fact that you were getting feedback, you were listening to your customers, and also you were seeking expert advice, which is really important as a early franchisor, to talk to people. Franchising is an amazing community, right? It's a community full of people who want franchising to be good, who want franchising to be better, and often will help other franchisors, even if they're in the same space, even if they're a competitor. I've seen it many times that people are helping their competitors, and I love that, because that makes the industry stronger. We're gonna bring out a couple more comments, and then we're going to come to this question actually from Simon. So we've got, Joe's giving me a score. What did I get? I've got 8.333333. Excellent. Thanks, Joe. We've got Johnny Joseph with us. Johnny is a franchisee royalty auditor. Yeah, I got that absolutely spot on there, didn't I, Johnny? Anyway, he's put fellow franchise friends, greetings from Worldwide Franchisee Royalty Auditing Headquarters in perfect weather, Los Angeles. Excellent. Good to have you with us, Johnny. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts, of course, on when a business is ready to franchise. You know, in terms of royalties, you know, where should you be on that? Let us know your thoughts. Anyway, let's get to this question from Simon, because it's a good one. So Simon has put, how do you know when the time is right to franchise your business? So give us your thoughts on this. So let's take you to the, we may go back again, but let's now take you to the point where,
let me go back, because that's a story which tells you when was ready, right? So when you're building a business, I was not thinking about franchising. I was thinking about my plan B. I wanted, if I'm going to get fired, I will go and I'm going to fire my manager and I will become my manager. That was the plan, right? So I got a space inside the Wilmington food hall. They gave me a condition that, okay, no construction cost, no electricity, no gas, nothing. You pay 25% of your sales. And I was like, okay, it's great. 25% of the sales go towards the operating costs. I will have 25 to 30% my labor costs. 25% around gonna be a food cost. So I'm still profitable. So I took that as space, right? And I started operating, hire a manager. We did really, really well in that location. So we were performing number one, two, three, number one, two, three. So when the developer opened a second location in Houston, they asked me to go there. With my experience in the fast casual restaurant, and I'm not being there, I had an entire my operation manual and process and SOPs in place, right? So what I did, I hired a manager for Houston and give them entire book and did a training for 2 weeks. And I start seeing that the customer feedback was 4.8, where I was so happy that okay, my operation manual is working document. And now when you have a two location, people start coming and asking you, hey, is that a franchise? Is that a chain? And that's where your thought processes start working. That okay, this is looks like I can do something out of it. People are liking it. The concept is great. Food is simple. They love it. You know what I did the first thing? In the franchise industry, that's the beauty. I went to Joe, he's here right now. Yeah. So I went to
good
Joe.
idea.
Yeah, I went to Joe on the LinkedIn. I reached out to him directly. He was so nice, so kind. He jumped on the call. He gone through all this process. He helped me, that he said, Pankaj, you should go to the boot camp, which is in the Atlantic City. So we thought, okay, let me go to the boot camp. So I booked a boot camp. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and learn about the franchising. And I start meeting a lot of lawyers. I'd see the cost, and it was amazing to see like, okay, 100,000, 80,000. That's the invoicing is coming through. So I went and I was like, okay, let me spend that money on me and educate myself and be ready for the franchising. So then I thought, okay, for franchising, you need to have a concept which is copy paste, duplicate. You can do it, right? It do not require a skill in place. It's require a process. So my belief in our business is that like people which is behind the counter, front of the counter. You need to know how to handle people. Then you need to have a product, whatever product you're selling it. You need to get those product right. It has to be flavorful, tasty. People has to come back for it. Then you need to have a process in place. The process, what does? The process does due intelligence between cross check between human and final product. If your final product, if something goes wrong in a wrap or drink or bowl, then you do not go and start talking to your employees or blasting employees or looking at supplier. You go back to your process and fix it, right? There must be some kind of issues in your process. If these three works, profit will come. So you do not start looking into the profit. If I'm selling a coffee for $3, what is the profit I'm making it? You don't see that way. You look at to the overall that okay, you have the right people,
I think that's
right?
really interesting. I think it's to get when we're looking at franchising, normally these things are a spark of an idea from somebody who thinks they've got a great business and hopefully does have a great business and also has a great business that they can repeat and that they can teach other people about. And that's that process, isn't it? You know,
Mhm.
the right product, you know, that's come from a lot of research, a lot of listening, and then putting that process in place. And if it's not quite right, getting another process in place. We've got a few questions coming in,
Mhm.
so I want to make sure that we get to those. Um, it, let's have a look at Simon's question here.
Hmm.
And when so let's say you've got a concept,
Mhm.
moving on a little bit from your story perhaps now and imagining that you're in somebody else's shoes or perhaps wearing somebody
Mhm.
else's hat, let's say.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
But so would you say that it's the right time to franchise when you've got your product right, when you've got your process in place? Is that the time? Do you need to have a store open? Do you need to prove it in that way? Do you need to have 10 open? What's your sort of thoughts if you were trying to advise someone? When's that time to do it?
Mhm. You don't need to have 10 open, right? It could be there are people who has a great business plan and they can start franchising. I know a lot of franchise businesses which they do not own a store, right? So, but what you require when you are franchising to someone, you are giving them a know-how. That's the most important factor. So you have a location of working, or you should have a multiple location, not from the one location where you working or you are sitting, you overseeing it, right? Without you, that business can run or not. Number one. So you have a multiple locations. They are running as per the standard product quality, whatever you're looking at. Is it profitable? If it's not profitable, you cannot franchise it. You can't franchise the loss making business. So you need to have a profitable, you need to have a process driven. It doesn't have to have a skill driven, or you don't require a skill. Otherwise, then you get a stuck that you're finding those skilled people to run your business, right? So you need to get a franchise model. That means you have SOPs, operation manuals, product, cooking methods, whatever you require in the restaurant industry, and be ready. So when somebody comes to you, they should able to that you should able to tell them item 7, item 19. Yeah, that's the investment. You can't say the investment is 100,000 while he is constructing and it goes 200, 300,000. So you need to know your investment, and each and everything has to be in detail. And then the person, if somebody comes in, can they make money or not, right? So that's the key factor, that somebody will come in and invest money in your or buying your franchise,
I
right?
yeah.
I look at franchise in a way that okay, I am here in New York, and now somebody is sitting in the California. They like the business concept, they like the entire setup. Now they don't have know-how. So what happened that that person is local, he knows the local market, he local community, everything he knows, right? And for me, I'm sitting here, I have a know-how, I have a brand, I have a standard, I have operations process in place, but I don't know the market in California. So it's kind of joint venture where my investment, my royalty is 5%. I'm a 5% partner in that business, which is the person is investing, he's a 95% of
Ooh,
the
that's a
partner in
that's a
California.
really interesting way to look at that, actually.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone say that, actually. That royalty coming to you, that 5% coming to you as a franchisor, makes you invested in their business. I think that's a
Yeah.
really interesting framing of that. I love what you said about making sure we're talking about when your business is ready to franchise. Make sure it can run without you. Great advice
Yes.
there, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about the founder. The founder's story can still be in there and it still can be driven into those SOPs and into the culture of what you're creating, but it has to be able to run without you. Is it profitable? So important. It doesn't matter how good it is. If it's not
Yeah.
going to make any money, absolutely no point. And process driven. Love those things. We've got some great questions coming in. I'd really like to get to some of these. Let's have a look. First of all, let's welcome Chris Knight to the show. Welcome to you. He's put, hello, Pankaj. Thanks for sharing your experience with us. I'm curious, how do you keep your brand standards, menus, and customer experience consistent to your vision? Great question. Welcome to the show, Chris. Thanks for being here. And I love this one. And I think it's coming at the right time, actually, because we've really started to talk about some of these elements here. But once you've got these things in place, and when your franchise business is growing, how do you keep that to your vision, to your culture, to that idea that was in your head? What's some key elements to kind of keep it true as it grows?
It's amazing. It's great questions, right? It's not easy to answer, but it has a solution, because when we will start franchising, sometime what happened as a brand, as a franchisor, you think that, oh, Harvey called me and said, hey, Pankaj, it's great concept. I want it in my city. And I feel like, oh, you have money. You're going to pay me the franchise fee. I'm going to open. Yeah, go. Let's sign the document. Right? And that's where the recruitment of franchisee will decide your brand standard, menu, customer experience. So you need to understand that you do not go and just bombard and start signing anybody on everybody, right? It's all become that how you recruit, recruitment process. You should not go become desperate of opening multiple brand. Like I see some of the company, they sign 100 unit, open a 5 or 10, and they fail. So it's better to go into the recruitment process where you should be able to say no to people that, okay, no, you're not the right person for my brand, right? Otherwise, what's going to happen that they're going to start changing your menu, your customer experience, and everything going to go. And I have done this mistake in past where I closed a couple of two locations. And I was like, oh, I went to the location in Orlando. When we opened, I was like, I saw they are changing. And I was like, God. So I give them a notice, 1, 2, 3, pull out. I was like, no, it's better. Let them do what they want to do. They are not the right people.
Not the right people. Yeah, I think it's really important what you said there, to say no. And I think when I've spoken to founders, when I've spoken to franchisors in the early part of their journey, it's probably the most common mistake that happens. You're growing your business, you need franchisees to do that. It's very tempting to do two things. One, like you say, take the wrong people on that don't suit that culture, that don't understand the vision, that don't understand the value proposition of what you're offering. And it can be a really big mistake early on. Love that question, Chris. Thanks so much for popping that in. Let's have a look at what we got. We've got questions coming up here from Johnny Joseph, from Steve Turner. But before we get to that, let's welcome the lovely Stuart Gurman to the show. Stuart is a supporter, of course, of ours. And Stuart, you're up very early. I hope you're sleeping well, but Stuart is on the other side of the globe in New Zealand, but always fantastic to have you with us, Stuart. Looking forward to having you back on the show in the autumn when the clocks change and it's not quite so early for you. But welcome to the show. If you have just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show, and today we are talking about getting your business ready to franchise. It's been a fantastic conversation with Pankaj, and we've really understood his founder's journey and already got some fantastic little tips on what we should be doing and what we should be thinking about in this early stage, getting our businesses ready to franchise. So let's have a look. We've got a couple more questions. Oh, hold on. Before we get to that, Stuart's come back. We've just woke up in New Zealand. It's 4:45 a.m. Wednesday here. Well, really appreciate you being with us. have a coffee or try and go back to bed, my friend. But lovely to have you with us, of course. Let's have a look at what Steve's come back with. Steve Turner's put, if the model works, there is appetite for the brand. Excuse the pun. Oh, don't say excuse the pun. I love a pun. So, and the P&L can absorb a royalty fee. It can be franchised as long as the franchisor can show the franchisee how to cut and paste the operating model. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think of this one? I completely agree. And it mentions two things here and reinforces two things. One, that it can make money with a franchise fee included within that P&L. So if it doesn't, and you're trying to skirt around that, or you're trying to juggle things around to try and make it look like it's making money, it's just not, it's not ready to franchise. It's not ready to do business, perhaps. But if the margins are that tight that are, you know, whatever your franchise royalty fee that you're planning, 5, 6, 7%, whatever it is, if you look at a P&L for a franchisee, and if you take that from that P&L, if that then makes it very low numbers or even minor numbers, it's not working. Like Pankaj said, you then go back, you look at your process, you look at whether that can be corrected. Love that, Steve. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, this is a great question that definitely, you know, before even you franchise, what I do, you know, my franchise method a little bit changed. So what I have done, I go and find a location which gonna work for my concept. So if I have EWR airport, I know this is gonna be a great location, negotiate the lease, take a timeline of 3 months to 6 months from the landlord. Then I go to the market and advertise it that, okay, this is the location, this is what we would like to do, and this is how it's going to work. And we run through the P&L, and in that projected P&L, which is low or high volume game. So we put it together and we make it for franchisee to understand from the day one that, okay, these are the expenses which we're going to go from your P&L, and this is how it's going to look like. You will be making 18 to 20% of the bottom line, right? And this is your break even. So we work in that scenario. For us, like operating cost has to be very, very tight, which gives you a longer runway. Otherwise, when the operating cost is higher, and that's where you see some of the brand, they could not sustain. You know, I play cricket. So for me, being on the pitch, it generates the run. It's sitting outside in pavilion doesn't generate a run. So you need to learn how to stay on the ground and run the business, because business require in a year when they start generating money. My case, some of the locations they generate or do break even from the day one. We identify a location which has the crowd, right? Bringing a crowd or bringing a client, that's the biggest challenge. And if the franchisee is relying on franchisor, then you need to understand that he is waiting. If it's going to be so easy, then the franchisor going to start opening their own store. Why to franchise it? So he, you know, as a franchisor, I want you to do some of the groundwork to make sure the business works. It's your investment of 200,000. If you don't care, where the
I think. Sorry to interrupt. You've just made a fantastic point here, that there's a responsibility of a franchisee here, not only to work hard and to make the business work and to follow the system, but there's a responsibility for something like to understand a P&L, as an example, to understand the difference between EBITDA, net profit, gross profit, turnover, cost of goods, staff costs, where should they be, see those red flags, right? It is up to franchisees as well to understand what those numbers should be. And I think you make a really interesting point there. Let's have a look. We've got a few more comments here. Let's have a look at what Johnny's got to say. In a new franchise, the keys for royalties is the franchise agreement definitions. What does a royalty apply to? What is exempt from royalties? Is the calculation clear and easy to implement? as far as ERP. In franchising, it's usually based on gross sales, but in some businesses, that's not as simple as it sounds. I like this one, and it's reminded me of something I wanted to talk about actually. I don't know many franchisors that implement this, and I know why, or I think I know why, but I'm interested in your take while we're talking about this element of when your business is ready for franchising and the sort of the money part of it. But would you think there would ever be a franchisor that would base royalties on profit elements, whether that be EBITDA, net profit, so that they're kind of sort of it's hard because it's very easy as a franchisor. Johnny here is an auditor. It's very easy to manage and audit sales. They go through an EPOS system, you know what they are, right? So it's very easy to do it. It's very hard to manage what profitability actually is as a franchisor. But I'd love one day, I think, for a franchisor to say, look, our model is based on you making bottom line money, and that's where we share it. But what's your thoughts? Do you think that'll ever come into place?
It's very difficult to say something like that because what's going to happen? Profitability, I have seen my store, they make profit a certain number of sales, lowest number of sales. They are profitable, they have great ROI. Double the sales, that store is not making money. It's day-to-day operation. So how you managing and operating your store from where you are buying products, right? A lot of marketing is another room where you're investing $5,000-$10,000 a month. Now you send me as a franchisee bill to me saying, "Oh, I've invested $10,000 this month on the marketing. What is the outcome? Where I'm gonna go?" It's for me, it's very difficult as a franchisor to go back and track. There's a lot of room of theft and dishonesty. That okay, you're not gonna put the sales on your POS. You're not
Mm.
gonna do all of that, right? So then it's become that you as a franchisee, you're not focusing on the business. You're focusing on that. Okay, how do I not to declare the sales that I don't have to pay the royalty or profit or whatever, right? And then you go back and forth. It's a very easy and simple operation. I have put my 5 years to build the concept, right? 5 years of the time where I was not earning salaries, putting 70, 80 hours. Now you, as a franchisee, you go back and start your own business, right? From the day one, what's the guarantee what's going to happen when you're going to make money and how long the time duration going to be for you? No money, you put money from your pocket, right? So the franchise option where 80% opportunity for you to succeed in the business,
Mm.
20% chances of fail, and that also mostly based on the operators, right? So it's a very gray area that okay, profit. I mean, I do manage, monitor. I talk to franchisee, look into their P&L, and I'm gonna advise that okay, yes, this is your top line. These are the product which you're selling it. Let's
Yeah.
put promotion where you make money and your food costs stay within 25%, 20%. And how it possible, right?
Yeah.
That's our job is to educate and show it to them that okay, a corporate store, this is what we are doing it.
Yeah. 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 I
We
think you're right.
invite you to come to a corporate store, spend a week, understand, learn, relearn, retraining, and you go back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Johnny's just come back with easy exclamation mark, question mark. Oh, well, really all. Royalty auditing. Well, look, yeah, of course, and Johnny's making a great point. You've got to keep an eye on these things as a franchisor. Going back to that original question, I think from Chris, which was, if I can find it, there we go. How do you sort of keep all these things in place and how do you monitor them? Auditing is one thing, but another thing is talking to your franchisees, keeping in touch with them, making
That's right.
sure that you got your business ready to franchise, keep it ready to grow, keep it ready to to take your franchisees' views and thoughts as well, ready to adapt as well as another
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
Let's make sure
At
that
the same
we
time, Harvey, I would like to add here that the model which I work with is so many different brands, either the Burger King, Pizza Hut, Domino's, Subways, all of these brands. and have seen their model. I have seen one of the company what they have done. They generally in the food business, what they do, they go to open a centralized kitchen, $1 million investment, and from there they're gonna feed 10 to 15 locations, maintaining a quality and whatever you name it to that direction, and you adding an extra cost to the store, because this $1 million investment is not generating money, but what they are doing it basically it's adding an extra cost on the running business, running locations, and you have under pressure to build. Now you have a team of marketing, training, HR, all of that, so your corporate expenses are going higher and higher and higher. The moment your costs go higher, it's become very, very difficult, and that's where the desperation, and then you start borrowing money and building team, and that's where the failures are, right? So if you keep it very thin line, right, and lean, so we cook each and everything within the store, buy locally, right? So we have a vendors, your certain qualities, so you maintain, so your food cost drops. I'm not sipping anything from my office to my franchisee apart from the spices, that's it. So it's become easier to operate. You hire a third party company who does take care of marketing and other stuff, so it's become that you don't run on the payroll, you don't require, right? So that it's a method. With some companies, some franchise company, they have a huge investment, great money, they can build an entire team, they have those. For me, I have a different location, different POS system, right? So
Mm.
now if you are, I'm not synchronized where you're pulling all the data and having in one place, you're sitting and watching a cameras. We don't want to do all of that, right? So because the food hall or the mall, they have their own POS. They want to know their sales, because if the moment you do more than 1 million, you do pay another 10% to the mall. There's a
Yeah.
lot of factors. It's not that simple to
Yeah,
do
I
that.
think that's where you've got to help a franchisee when they're in that negotiation to know
Yeah.
what happens. Because it
Mm.
was very interesting when you said there that if you help a franchisee double their sales, they might not necessarily be as profitable or even profitable because of things like what you've just said there. And they're very important. There's a sweet spot. There's a sweet spot in terms of sales and those numbers. There's a sweet spot
Mm.
in terms of the size they've got and creating a nice environment and good service, good food. There's a sweet spot for the staff in terms of how much they can do,
Yeah.
and how many people you can squeeze in
Yeah.
to accommodate these higher numbers. So I think it's a very interesting one to sort of gauge what success is. And there's also a sweet spot for a franchisee as well, how hard they're working. That they
Yeah.
want to every franchise brand that I've spoken to, when they speak to their franchisees, they talk about the life they want. What life do you want from this? You know, putting those numbers aside for now, they talk about what the day to day might look like. And you mentioned there working 70, 80, 90 hours. It doesn't matter what job you do, if you're working those amount of hours, that's not a life balance that's
Mhm.
sustainable for any
Mhm.
job. I was speaking to a contractor who works those hours, and it just isn't sustainable. You don't have any time for your family, for your
Mhm.
friends, to balance these things out. So I think it's really important. We're a couple of minutes or a minute away from the last part of today's show. It's been a really interesting conversation today. That we've got a LinkedIn user talking about when you should bring equipment suppliers on board. It's a great question. Let us know who you are. We're not going to deal with this one today because I'll tell you why. This is going to be a subject, I think, for a future episode. We're going to talk about fit out. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
equipment. We're going to talk about that element of it. So let us know who you are, because it'd be great to know who you are. And thanks for popping in the comment. And as I say, that is going to be a topic for a future episode. We have Ahmad Musa with us. Great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. He's put, hi, everyone. Well, hi to you too. Um, that I think is it. I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little before we move on to the last part. Let's talk a little bit about the future. What's your plans? I know you've got a consultancy that you're helping people with, and I'd also like to touch on, and we've probably got about 2 minutes, so quickly touch on these points. But you mentioned something called a franchise boot camp that's helping younger people. I'd quite like to end with what that is about, because I think it's a great initiative.
Yeah, so always, all of us, when we are in a business or do anything, we like to do something for our community, right? So, and I have seen that a lot of time when the kids, they have no clue about the franchise opportunity and the industry. So they don't really look into that way. Either they want to become a doctor, engineer, nurse, whatever they see it or they hear it, right? So it's important for them. Today what I do, I talk to them about, I have a 4 weeks of plan, 2 days in a week. I take the classes and I teach them about the basic fundamental that, okay, how do you manage, how do you if you have to open a business, what kind of business you want to open. And they all have an idea that, okay, it's a very interactive. And then how do you manage it? Are you going to be a partnership? You're going to bring your father, your brother? What are you going to do? And who is doing what and how are we going to do it? And then at the end, last week, I will bring them different franchise opportunity in front of them, that, okay, hey, if you are looking for AI or health, this is the how franchise model looks like, this is the investment, this is the money. And then after 8 weeks, we hand over the certificate to each kids and they get those hours to be reported. So it's a really interesting, and I do understand that somewhere, the McDonald, they bring the kids to the McDonald, and I'm hoping that one day these kids will become my future franchisee too,
Love it.
right? So
I
they
love it.
will,
I think it's a great initiative. I've always been a fan of bringing franchising to younger people. Let them learn about it. And
yeah,
you said that these kids are at sort of age 15. They're a very impressionable age. They're looking at their futures, looking at their careers, and it's great initiative so that they've got something that they can focus on and they know about franchising. Brilliant, fantastic. Well, we have come to the end of the first part of today's show. Now, this is normally the part of the show where I turn my camera off and switch hats. But as you can tell from my background, I am not in my normal under the stairs Harry Potter-esque office. I'm in a Premier Inn in Edinburgh today. And I couldn't squeeze two hats into my tiny suitcase. So this is the point where I switch hats from this one to this one. But this is the part of the show where we are going to ask a little question to get to know Pankaj. And he also gets a chance to get his own back on me. Also, we have a sponsorship opportunity. So if you would like to sponsor this show, let us know. Scan the QR code to the right. Lovely picture of me going like this. Anyway, so I'm going to ask you a question first, then you can get your own back on me. So I'm going to change this question up at some point. In fact, maybe today. But I am going to start with, have you met anyone famous? Because I love the stories. Sometimes there's an interesting little story. Or is there a hobby or a fact that we don't know about you? Something unusual. And you can choose between any of that. And then you can ask me anything you like afterwards.
oh yeah, I do meet some of those famous people while you're flying or in the airport or conference. But I'm not get fascinated about it, so I don't really click picture. I
Sure.
see them, I said hi, how are you doing? That's it. You don't really do much, but in franchise industry, yeah, you are here, Joe. I think Red and all of these. I think they are all famous people because in our franchise industry, this is
Famous in our space. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, I told you you could also get your own back on me and ask me anything you like. So this is the time to do that. You can let me get away with this. No one has yet.
Yeah, no, I do have. So when you have decided to start your podcast and how it happened?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So how long ago was it now? It was 3.5 years ago, around that sort of time. So it was 2023, I think, in April. And I'd been a guest on a LinkedIn Live, chap called Donald Cohen. He wore a hat. That's where that came from as well. And I just thought, I think I can do this for franchising. I had a lot of why should I be the one to do it at that time. I had also just started working for a franchisor at that time, and I wanted to learn about franchising. I wanted to meet people in franchising, but most of all, I think I wanted to try and add value and bring a community together. And I probably spent 3 months drawing out spider diagrams as to, what we'd talk about, what the format would look like, why people would want to listen to it, why people would want to be guests, all these questions I had in my mind. And in the end, I just thought, I tell you what, I'll just do it. I'll just go on and ignore all of my worries and concerns. So I did it, and at the beginning, it took a while to build, but I've been so lucky to have conversations with yourself and so many fantastic people in franchising. So it's been an absolute pleasure. But what for me makes it so good is the people in our community. This is not a conversation between you and I. This is a conversation, I say it at the beginning, but it's a conversation between everybody that's here. And there are lots of people that just listen to it and hopefully take a few gems away, which they share, which hopefully will, add things to the industry. So yeah, I love that question, and I hope that answered it.
Perfect. Fantastic.
Perfect. Well, look, we have now come to the end of the episode today. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. It's been fantastic to have you with us today. As I say, you add a huge amount of value to what we do, and you are what makes this what it is. So a big thank you to you all. I would also like to thank Pankaj for his time, sharing his story, sharing his advice and his thoughts on when you should franchise your business. So thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Great. So it just leaves me to say what's going to happen next week, if I can go back several pages to where I wrote that down. So next week on the Franchise Show, we are talking to Wesley Williams from Heavenly Desserts. So it's going to be a great episode, and we are going to be talking about growing a franchise without losing its soul. So it's going to be a good episode. We're going to be talking about that culture, that core, that idea that was at your heart. How do we keep that safe along the journey? So it's going to be a good one. So join us. That is 25th of August, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until next time, my lovely friends, take very good care and see you next time. Cheerio.